going to talk about all the big pitchers on the market, all the big hitters on the free agent market. But first, the number one category, and I think the producer is correct. Until proven otherwise, until we hear from the Tigers that Tarik Skubal isn't going anywhere, we're going to start with, is he going anywhere? Tarik Skubal, certainly a big story here. And again, chat at me if you've got any chats. First, I'm going to talk Tarik Skubal. You know, the Tigers could have shut this down at the GM meetings last week. They could have said, we're not taking any offers. He's not going anywhere. He's a Tiger. We've made the playoffs the last 2 years. He's going to be a Tiger this year, but they didn't do that. They no commented the situation, and that's their prerogative. Nothing wrong with that. And the feeling is, the guess is, at least among most general managers, that they will survey the market. They will gauge the value of Tarik Skubal, generally considered the best pitcher in baseball. I guess someone could make a case for Paul Skeens, certainly, but Tarik Skubal's won 2 straight Cy Youngs. You look at the numbers overall, the consistency. He is the best, I believe, right now in Major League Baseball. Certainly, again, Skeens has a case. I don't know that anybody else has a case, but Skubal is clearly way up there in the rankings. And what would it take? I mean, I think it's going to take a haul. I understand that other than the Padres, who probably don't have a ton of money, they do need a starting pitcher. And the Phillies, most teams, the other 28 teams, or in this case, the other 27 teams, don't like to trade big-time young players, big prospects. But in this case, we're talking about a guy who would lift a team, at least for that first year. It is a rental. No one's going to sign him immediately. I don't see that happening. He will be a free agent after the year. But 1 year of Tarik Skeens is worth a lot. I mean, he's probably an 8-win player. I didn't check the WAR lately, but to me, that's a ton. And, the teams that do make these trades of a star player for a group of lesser players, it usually does not work out. The one team that did a really good job with it was the Kansas City Royals when they traded Zach Greinke. They brought in Kane, they brought in Escobar, and they built a team that won a championship, got to 2 World Series, and that was an excellent trade for them. You're not going to get someone's probably a number one prospect. If the Mets were going to do it, and certainly I believe they would be in on it, they're not going to give up McLean in the deal. They would give up other top prospects, I believe, for Skubal, but not McLean. Same with the other teams that have these top 10 or top 20 prospects. Don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. But to me, someone could capitalize here potentially if the Tigers are willing to trade him. They're certainly willing to, I believe, we'll see if they ever shut it down, but I do believe they're going to be willing to gauge interest in Skubal. So we shall see about that. Do I think he's getting traded? I doubt it. It's just hard for me to see a team that's made the playoffs the last 2 years trading such a key player, and certainly would not be a good reaction from the fans, who certainly love him. And you know what? What's not to love? I just saw him over in Las Vegas. Terrific young man. I waited to talk to him through all his interviews after the Cy Young, and just a very nice, polite young man. I give him extra bonus points for coming on the show, the podcast from the New York Post. But even if he hadn't come on, I think he is a terrific young man, beyond being a great pitcher who is short of 30 years old. I believe he's 28 right now. So, he's going to want certainly the proper contract. The contract would be the highest in baseball. He hasn't said that. They haven't named a price. There's no reason to. The Tigers haven't come close. Negotiations haven't gone anywhere. A year ago, the Tigers made an offer. It was less than $80 million for 4 years, so they were looking at 2 free agent years at the time. I mean, that's really was never going to get it done. I'm not really sure. It's a smart front office. I'm not sure what they were intending to do there. Obviously, Crochet got double that right after that, and Skubal was never going to sign anything like that anyway. And, I do think that the Tigers will gauge the market. Do I think they're going to trade him? Still doubtful. I wouldn't rule it out. To me, I would hold on to them because they are a good team. All right, let's go here. I will answer some of I'm getting in now all of the chats, and I'm going to try to get to all of them before we get on to topic number 2. Yankees still on Imai with Grisham accepting the offer. I don't think they're going to changed completely that Grisham accepted the offer. I think they understood that was a possibility. I think, frankly, there were people in that front office, some people in the baseball ops department, who thought that he probably was not going to accept. But I think their eyes were open. They understood if they made that offer that he could accept. I think they felt in a weak center field market, 28 years old, off of a big year, 34 home runs, I think 23 of them or 21 of them, excuse me, coming on the road, that he might not accept. But he did accept. I think that was a little bit of a surprise. I don't think they changed course. I think they're interested in Imai. They're certainly still going to pursue Bellinger. Does it inhibit their chances? Perhaps a little bit. We shall see on that. All right. Will the Braves make a move before Friday's non-tender? I mean, I'm hearing the Braves are talking about shortstops. That seems to be their number one thing, along with the starting pitcher. Their starting pitching rotation is actually pretty good, but they obviously do need a shortstop with Kim opting out. Kim is a logical fit. I do know that they have a connection to Bichette. I think he's probably going to be a little pricey for the Braves at this point to pay that shortstop, close to $200 million. I think they're looking at a defensive guy. So I think Kim is probably the guy that they are looking at. There isn't a big market. There aren't a ton of guys out there, but that would be my guess. If the Braves do make a move, it might be for a shortstop. All right. Angels still trade Adele. I'm not so sure that they will trade Adele. They just traded Ward, right? I mean, are they going to trade another outfielder? I don't know, unless they got something up their sleeve that we don't know about. I think they kind of need Adele, and he kind of just maybe scratched the surface of what he can do. Let's see. Angels move while cleaning up money. Ward trade. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was an interesting trade. Grayson Rodriguez, a very talented guy. Apparently, the Orioles are not sure if he's going to be able to get over all these injuries that he has had with the elbow. But for the Angels, it's worth the risk because, even if he's not prepared to really contribute this year, he certainly can do it next year. Or at least they are hopeful and they believe that he can do it next year. I'm just going to check my texts here, see what's going on here. Pardon me for a second. All right. And let's see here. Red Sox doing, I mean, they need a right-handed bat, right? So Bregman is the key guy. I think that's the key. If they can do Bregman, I think they'll be happy. I think Bellinger, I do think Alonso is another guy they're interested in. They want a right-handed bat. I'm just looking at the potential, at the questions that I'm getting in here. All right. Braves, I already got that one. Cubs signing anyone. I think they will sign a pitcher, whether that be Michael King or their old friend Cease. Mets, Skubal, question mark. Absolutely a possibility if they do trade Skubal. Phillies, question mark. I think the Phillies are looking at the outfield. First is obviously Schwarber and Real Muto. I think they'll look at Suarez and think about that. Thank you for answering. I appreciate that. What can the Cards expect from Bloom? You know what? I think they are looking long-term more than short-term. I think Sonny Gray is being talked about. That is a possibility. We know that Brendan Donovan is being talked about. We'd heard last year at the All-Star, at the All-Star game, I heard it, but for the deadline, we heard Brendan Donovan, a potential interest from Houston, I'm sure many others. Is Skubal and Crochet equivalent to Randy and Schilling? Wow. Yeah, I mean, if Boston gets Skubal, that would be quite a get, and they certainly were in on starting pitchers last year. So I'm not going to rule out Boston doing that. Imai to the Giants. Look, the Giants are going to do big things, at least try to do big things. There's no question about that. We know that. Giants, Skubal, Bichette, question mark. Look, they signed Adames, so I'm not sure that they're going to go toward Bichette. Bichette I can see with, Red Sox, certainly the Blue Jays, perhaps the Mariners. There are a ton of teams that I could see for Bichette. Skubal and Crochet, Randy and Schilling, not quite yet. Skubal, I got to put in that category as one of the better pitchers. Crochet's had two very, very fine years. Second in Cy Young. He's a terrific pitcher, but to put him in the category of Randy and Schilling, maybe not quite yet, but I love Crochet. He's a terrific pitcher. White Sox add starters. I mean, I think they need to add bats more than starters. Phillies rumors, I think, as I said, outfield, I think we're looking at that. Favorite for Tucker. I don't know if there's an A favorite at this moment, but I think the Jays make sense. The Jays are going to focus on pitching first and foremost, but they will look at Tucker, I do believe. I think the Giants make sense. The Dodgers as well. Somebody reported the Dodgers don't want to go the long years for Tucker. Maybe I could see that. I could see them trying like a Harper offer. They offered him like 4 for 150, something like that. Obviously, prices have gone up a little bit, but somewhere in that area, I can see that for the Dodgers. They do prefer shorter deals if they can with most players. Now, obviously, not Ohtani or Yamamoto, or you get a pitcher who's 25. I understand that, but I mean, Tucker's a young free agent. He's in his 20s, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Dodgers prefer a shorter deal. Hal Steinbrenner and 300 million. Look, he's going to have to go over 300 million, right? I mean, Grisham is back. They need to get Bellinger back. They need a starting pitcher. They need to revamp that bullpen. Certainly need a lefty arm. I don't see how they keep it under 300 million. I really don't. Anything on the Marlins? The Marlins are trying to add. They're actually going to do stuff. They have money. That's what the Pirates say as well. Obviously, it's a little harder to get guys to come to a team that hasn't won big yet. They made a big step. I think they won, what did they win? 19 more games this year than last year. So give the Marlins credit. They're on the right track. Miami is in my background, as you see. That doesn't mean I'm biased, but they are in the background. Naylor can't be the only move that the Mariners make. I agree. I think they still like Polanco, if not Polanco, Eugenio Suarez. That was kind of the order we were looking at. And as I reported, that was the order. Dodgers make a deal with Tucker or Bellinger. Yeah, I think Bellinger is a possibility. I don't think there's any question about that. Bichette on Yankees. I'm not seeing that one. I think they're pretty happy with McMahon. I think they obviously have a second baseman in Jazz. Yeah, I get it. They're not thrilled with Volpe. I see them more getting like a stopgap on the shortstop until Volpe's ready in a month, and maybe adding a righty bat to semi-platoon, maybe Ahmed Rosario back, something like that, or Brendan Rodgers back at third base with McMahon, who was fantastic defensively. Devin Williams to Boston, question mark. Sure, if he wants to be a setup man. I mean, he certainly should be able to get a closing job somewhere, but I see all these teams that he's projected to. The Mets, where he would be a setup man, presuming that they sign Edwin Diaz. And of course, we cannot assume anything here. Someone just asked me Edwin Diaz favorite. I mean, I got to say the Mets are the favorite. Even he said it was 50-50 if he goes back there. If it's 50-50, he goes to the Mets. That's naming them as the favorite, right? And nobody else can get more than 50 at that point, right? And we got to assume there's a field of several teams interested. So even he said the Mets are the favorite. I do think that there's a compromise solution for Edwin Diaz. I mean, 4 years makes sense. I think they're willing to do 3. Obviously, Diaz camp had come out and said that they'd like to get 5, and I'd hear that as well. But I think they would take 4. I think that's a worthwhile offer for Diaz. Now, Diaz does have a market. Obviously, the Jays are looking for a closer, potentially Detroit, Atlanta, Toronto, Boston, potentially Baltimore. All could be in the closer market. Boston maybe less so. They've got Chapman back, but Boston's got money to spend. So, maybe they go for that big dynamic bullpen. They could go that way. But Baltimore, Detroit, Atlanta, Toronto, I would say the other teams most in on the top closers with Diaz number 1. Then you've got Suarez number 2. Closing market's pretty strong, right? You got Helsley, you got Devin Williams, you've got Kenley Jansen. So there's a ton of them out there. All right, latest on top hitters. All right, Schwarber, the Phillies are going to make a big play. It's hard to see Dave Dombrowski not finding the money for Schwarber, but if he doesn't, we're looking at the Cubs or Boston potentially. Tucker, I've been over that. San Francisco, Toronto, Philly, Dodgers, all of them potentially in the mix. Alonso, I kind of like. I kind of think the Mets need to do it, and I think that he's better off going back there too. It's kind of like the Diaz situation. I think Baltimore is a potential, Boston's a potential for Alonso, but I think the Mets, again, we're going to go 50-50 right. You sound tired. I do. Right now, it's just my voice. I'm not tired. Bellinger, Yankees, Mets, Phillies, Dodgers. I think there are some other teams that could be interested. Bellinger's got a big market. Look, he had a terrific year, had a 5 award season, even higher than Tucker. Now, he's not Tucker. Tucker is more consistent, much more consistent offensively, a little bit younger. Bellinger doesn't have the qualifying offer. Bellinger is a defender who can play center, can play first. Certainly provides a little bit extra for that. And so he's going to have a big market. The Yankees, that's still the Yankees' priority, right? So are they the favorite? I guess you could say they're probably the favorite, but there are several teams that are interested. I do think the Dodgers, his old Dodgers team, could take him back. I think the Mets could fit, at least in terms of the position. Do they need another left-handed bat? It's a little bit of a question there. I think they need that right-handed bat more, which means Alonso is probably a better fit there. But Bellinger has a very, very big market. Bregman, I'm looking at Boston, needs to go back to Boston, right? I mean, that makes perfect sense. Bregman back to Boston. Cubs, potentially, I think they like Shaw at third. Could they move Shaw to second? Maybe. Detroit, Toronto, potentially several teams in on Bregman as well. Detroit was last time. We know they offered 171.5. Potentially, that could be a fit. Dodgers in on Williams, Fairbanks, Iglesias. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think they're going to go for the big money Diaz, but I do think those are the guys that you would see. Williams, Fairbanks, Iglesias. Like I said, pretty good closing market, even beyond Diaz. So there are some options. Braves bullpen thoughts. Yeah, they probably don't go as far as Diaz. They're probably looking at the same group. They could bring back Iglesias. They could go for Fairbanks or Williams. Fairbanks could be a potential fit with the Braves. I could see that easily. Guardians news. I mean, obviously, they don't have big money to spend. They're going to piece it together. They'll do a good job. I doubt they trade Stephen Kwan. I doubt they trade. They're certainly not going to trade Jose Ramirez. They do a great job there. I'm not going to guess what they're going to do. They're going to think of something better than I could think of. All right, let's go. Any free agent signings this week? You know what? Thanksgiving is an early time for a free agent signing, and we're not to Thanksgiving yet. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Early Thanksgiving. We'll talk again next week, so I'll be able to wish happy Thanksgiving again. But, I mean, Torrey Hunter was a guy who signed at Thanksgiving for $85 million, I believe it was, with the Angels. That was an early free agent signing. Some guys have signed back with their old team earlier. Obviously, Naylor did 3 years ago. We saw Diaz do that with the Mets. Obviously that hasn't come to fruition at this point, but, this is still early right now, still early. Reds, I like what the Reds do. Let's give them credit. That's a small market team that spends. Buxton or Duran to the Dodgers. Buxton we're going to talk about Buxton in a little while, so I'm going to save that. Murakami news. I think he's going to have a big market. It's going to be a big market team. Certainly the bigger markets have the edge in signing the Japanese players, particularly the ones that are just coming over. So you got to look at those teams first. I don't think it's going to be the Dodgers. They picked up Muncy's option, as they should have. Anyone to the Pirates. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the Pirates do, because they do have some money to spend. They do need offense. They are looking at a market with some good offensive players. Are they going to go for one of the really big guys? I doubt that, but they certainly will get some offense. I do believe that. All right, category number 3, D-backs moving Marte. I think it's still more likely that he stays. He's a superstar player, absolutely outstanding player. They are listening, and they've listened before, and they have other holes to fill, particularly in the rotation. Gallen will presumably go somewhere else, not definitely, but presumably. Merrill Kelly had been traded away, so now he is a free agent, and we're going to talk about all this pitching guys on the pitching market later, but they do need some pitching, and they are willing to move Marte for the right price. They have been in the past. He's got a 5-team no-trade list. In the past, at least, the Yankees have been on it. I think the Pirates have been on it. Not aware of the rest of that list, but certainly they're going to have to find one of the other 24 teams if they're going to do it, and it's tricky for them, right? He's got a reasonable contract, about $100 million to go, but superstar hitter, certainly could fit any of those teams that fit for Bichette, whether that be the Red Sox, the Mariners, the Blue Jays. maybe even the Mets. Righty bat certainly could help the Mets. So are they going to move him? I don't think so, but his name is certainly out there. I don't think there's any question about that. All right, we got two categories to go, and I'm going to answer any and all chats I get. I've got a helper here to give me all the chat questions, and I'm happy to do it. All right, we got some more chat questions in. O'Hearn landing spots. Oh, that's a tough one. All right, well, a very good DH, potential first baseman. Could it be Texas? Could it be? That's the one that comes to mind for me. He did well in San Diego. Would they take him back? Could be. I think he'll do pretty well. Yanks in on Akamoto and Murakami. I mean, I think Bellinger's their focus right now, so that is number one on their agenda. I think they're pretty happy with McMahon at third base, so I'm not seeing that. Now, first base right now, I think they'll go with Rice for the most part. So I think that probably is a stretch for the Yankees. I'm not going to rule it out because Rice isn't a clear first base starter, but I think it's not that likely right now. All right, Mets rumors. Certainly Diaz, they're talking to him. Alonso, they're talking to him. They're the priorities. Plus the run prevention, which is pitching and defense. I think McNeil is out there. Someone wants to trade for him. I do believe Senga's out there, as Will Salmon reported. If somebody wants to trade for him, excuse me, I'm going to try to get my voice going a little bit. Sorry about that. All right, Mets rumors. I think Beatty will be the third baseman. I think they'll look at second base if they are able to trade McNeil. He's got 17.75 to go, so I think they probably can trade him if they pay it down a little bit. They got to look at center field. Obviously, Cedric Mullins didn't do it. They could look at Bellinger. They could look at Buxton. They could look at a number of guys for center field. It's not a big center field market. Could they bring Bader back? I mean, they didn't really pursue him strongly at the deadline, so I'm not sure they're going to, but, he certainly could fit for the Mets. So anybody who's a good defender, right-handed bat, Bader should fit. I don't know why they didn't go for him. Again, they went for Mullins, who didn't do it for the Mets. They won't bring him back, obviously. But I do think they are going to look at to improve the defense as well as bring back the two keys are Alonso and Diaz. They bring back Alonso and Diaz and then improve that bullpen and the rotation. I think they're okay. I know they're talking about run prevention and including defense. And I know they weren't thrilled with the defense, which was ranked somewhere between 15 and 20. I get it, but I think if their pitching is better, they'll be in a lot better shape. They need Manaea to pitch like he can. They need Senga, if they keep him, to pitch like he can. And again, Senga's out there, I believe. All right. Good Buxton waive no trade. Category number 4. I mean, it's possible. He loves it in Minnesota. He's a loyal guy. I don't think he wants to waive the no trade. The suggestion I've heard is that if they trade Ryan and Lopez, then he'll be more open to it. Now, they're not talking about it publicly. He's not talking about it. He loves Minnesota. He made that clear at the All-Star game, even when Minnesota was selling a whole bunch of guys. He wanted to stay in Minnesota. But if they sell a whole bunch more guys, I think at that point he's going to have to consider it. Dan Hayes of The Athletic reported that he would consider it under some circumstances. I think that is the circumstance. If they trade Lopez and Ryan, I mean, is Buxton going to want to say at that point? I mean, that would be really beyond the call of duty. That would be the most loyal person of all time. He obviously is very loyal. He doesn't need to prove that what a loyalist he is. At this point, he was willing to stay through all of the sale last year, but that's a guy who really would fit the Mets. If he was out there, right-handed bat, good defender, stayed healthy last year, plays center field. I mean, to me, that's a better fit than Bellinger for the Mets. Now, Bellinger fits in terms of position, first base, center field, all that, but left-handed bat. So not a perfect fit. Buxton actually a better fit for the Mets. We know that the Braves have shown interest in him. Now, the Braves do have pretty good outfielders with Harris, obviously, in center field. But certainly in left field, they could figure it out. They could move one of them to left field and have the best left fielder in the game. Hunter Green rumors. I mean, I checked in with the Reds. They don't seem to want to trade him. Royals News, Jonathan India. That one looks like a potential trade. Yankees addressing infield. I do think they reached out to Med Rosario and to Brendan Rodgers. So they're looking to maybe get a platoon for third base. I think they'll need a stopgap at shortstop. But in terms of a big star on the infield, unless you count Bellinger as a potential first base, I don't think they're going to go for a big infielder. They do need to address the bullpen. I think that's first and foremost for me after Bellinger is that bullpen because, they're losing Weaver, they're losing Williams, at least at this point. They are free agents. Presumably they will replace them. They could use another lefty to go with Tim Hill. So a lot going on that. Cubs in on a bat. Well, I think they would like to get a bat. Pitching is the priority, though, whether it be King, Cease, Gallen, whomever. I do think the Cubs will add another pitcher even beyond Shota Imanaga coming back. Will the Yankees sign someone from Japan? They're looking at Imai. It's expensive. Not that likely, but they are considering him. Could be. Dodgers in on Bichette. I don't think so. I really don't. I think their need is more in the outfield and the bullpen than the infield. So I'm not seeing that at all. Kwan comes up. The Guardians will listen on anybody. Do I think Kwan's getting traded? I don't see why he would, right? If they're at the deadline, they're not in it. At that point, he's got a year and a half to go. Yeah, I get it. But at this point, I just don't think it makes any sense for them to trade Kwan. Buxton and Philly, a match. Yes, I agree with that. Thank you for pointing that out. Right-handed bat, good outfielder in center. But again, Buxton doesn't want to go anywhere unless he sees that they're going to have another fire sale and trade Lopez and Ryan. That's a lot. So I'm not counting on Buxton going anywhere, but that's a good question. Thank you for that very much. What teams could be interested in Jonathan India? I don't know. Do the Reds want him back? That's a tougher question. Versatile guy, so he can play a lot of different positions. So, that's a tough one to predict. But certainly, Seattle needs another infielder, I think. Toronto needs an infielder at this point, but it could be anywhere. Who do you think the Cubs get with arms? I think King's a fit. I think Gallen's a fit. Cease is the guy they've had, but I think he's going to be very expensive. The Cubs are not into big expense, which is why we've said all along, Tucker, kind of a long shot to go there. All right, sorting out the pitching market. We only got 3 minutes to go. Any more questions? I'm happy to take them. Think my voice is doing a little bit better. It's funny, I've gone backward on the voice, but I've gone the other way. All right, sorting out the pitching market. The top three guys are still Imai, Cease, and Fromber. Does any of them get 200 million? Probably not. Imai's a little harder to predict. 98 9-mile-an-hour thrower, slider, 2.1 ERA since 2022. He's terrific. He should do very, very well. A little younger than your average at 27. Fromber's been really consistent. He's won as many games as anybody this decade, tied with Max Fried for the most, second in quality starts to Zach Wheeler. That's a very good pitcher. And he's a guy who did go to the general manager meetings and did talk to teams. I don't know if that was to sort out that one pitch that he threw where he hit Caratini and there was some controversy over it, and I get it. I really don't know what happened there, but he probably explained himself and, otherwise considered a good guy. I don't know what happened there, but he can explain it, and maybe teams will understand. Cease, durable, the only pitcher to strike out 200 or more the last 5 years. I understand he hasn't been that consistent once in a while. Occasionally he's a Cy Young contender. Other times he's got an ERA over 4.5. So I get it. Some teams might shy away, but there's going to be a big market for Cease. A guy who's that durable, strikes out a ton, great talent. Someone's going to think they can figure it out and get something great out of him. Next tier, Suarez has been an excellent pitcher, doesn't throw the big innings, never qualified for the ERA title, but a crafty lefty who's done well in the playoffs, always plays. Gallen, great talent, has been a number one pitcher in the past. Obviously didn't have the year that he was hoping to have this year. Someone really could get a good deal on that. King, terrific talent, obviously missed some time this year, but also another great talent, a smart guy. He might go to the East Coast. I wouldn't be surprised if Gallen did too. Gallen's from New Jersey. King is from Rhode Island. There are other good pitchers on the market that we don't talk much about. Merrill Kelly's outstanding, right? Merrill Kelly did a great job with both Arizona and Texas. He's out there. Chris Bassett is out there. He was fantastic in relief. Obviously, gave up that one run in Game 7. That was just a tough loss in that World Series, but a terrific competitor, terrific pitcher. Then, of course, we've got Scherzer and Verlander as well. So we got a ton of pitchers. Can the Blue Jays sign both Bo and Tucker? I'm not putting anything past the Blue Jays. Do I think they will? I don't think they will. I mean, I think Bo is the guy they want to bring back. Certainly had that big home run. He's a great hitter. Tucker's a guy they're going to look at for sure. Outfield really isn't their number one need. So, I'm not sure they do that. They did go big on Ohtani. They did go big on Soto. They have been trying hard. They obviously spent on Guerrero. They were going to be able to still go for Guerrero even if they had signed Soto or Ohtani. So Soto and Ohtani were a lot more money than Bo, certainly, and even Tucker. So I think that they can do what they want to do if these guys are willing to go. Relievers available. Hey, you know what? People criticize this market. The relief market is outstanding, starting with Diaz, Suarez, and you've got other closers. Helsley's in there. You've got Kenley Jansen. You've got Raisel Iglesias. You've got a ton of very good closers out there. If Phillies miss Schwarber, do they try for Tucker? I think so. I think that's a potential fit. The only thing is that once again, we're talking about a lefty bat. Yeah, I mean, Schwarber's a lefty bat, and they're going for him. I think they probably lean righty to a degree, but not that much, And Dave Dombrowski spends. John Middleton is a terrific owner. I'm not putting anything past the Phillies. I think they could potentially look at. I'm not saying they're shopping them, but they could look at potential trades for Bohm, maybe Marsh. There's a lot that they might end up doing. I think their bullpen, they brought Alvarado back, is in fairly good shape. I think their rotation's in decent shape. So I think Suarez is definitely number 3 on that list of guys they want to bring back. Schwarber, number 1. Real Muto, number 2. And I think there's a decent chance that they do bring both of them back. I'm not saying it's going to get done, but to me, Schwarber and the Phillies, they shouldn't break up at this point, right? 56 home runs. He killed left-handed pitching. Fantastic for the team. Of course, he'd be good for any team, but I do think that makes sense that they do get Schwarber. But if they don't, yeah, sure, they could try for Tucker. All right, this is Jon Heyman signing off for Bleacher Report. It's been my pleasure. I will be back at you next week with more great free agent stories, rumors, potential trades, and the like. See you next week.